Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jodo Jake. Welcome back to the channel. This is Cards and Coffee, and this is episode 6. And today I'm talking about grading. I'm going to talk about my first experience grading. I'm going to talk about my successes grading, my failures grading, and what I think of the big three, and why I think it's important to grade cards. So, without further ado, my first experience grading was actually through a friend of mine. Shout out to Kirby. He was constantly grading modern cards. He texted me one day and was like, "Hey, I'm putting a PSA submission together." This was 2022 or 2023. I think it was the end of 2022. Yeah, it was the end of 2022. It was around when Lost Origins had came out. And he asked me if I wanted to throw in some cards. And he's well aware of how particular I am about my raw cards, both modern and vintage. And he was like, let's see what your 10 rate looks like. My first thoughts were, okay, what am I going to send? The thing that I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to test PSA. If I can find all of the scans, I'm sure I can. I have pictures of all the cards that I sent. I believe I sent 8 cards, if I remember correctly. And those ranged from black and white. I didn't send any super vintage, but the black and white card that I sent in particular was the next best thing as far as sending vintage. And I'll explain why in a bit. But I sent some mid-era, I guess it's mid-era now. Black and whites I consider mid-era. I sent some modern, and I sent some, and as far as modern goes, I sent Pikachu V Max from Lost Origin, and I sent some XY era stuff. I sent a Giratina V. I sent an not Giratina V, I'm sorry, Giratina EX. It's the full art. And I sent the Umbreon EX from, is it Fates Collide? I think it's Fates Collide. And I sent some super modern alt arts. I think I sent Dialga, and the mid-era black and white card that I sent was the Plasma Storm secret rare Blastoise. It was the only shiny Blastoise at the time in the TCG, in the entire TCG. It's a card that was special to me because I picked it up from an internet friend. Shout out to Jorge. He lives in Florida. He went by Scientific Squirtle, and he was a big fan of turtles of all kinds, from Squirtle, Blastoise to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he had picked up that card years ago, and I bought it from him on OfferUp. And we stayed in touch for years while that card just sat in an ETB box in a top loader. And I decided to send that because I thought it was a 9, but I wanted to see what PSA thought. That card, as well as the Charizard, the shiny Charizard, are tough to grade because of centering and just the quality overall. Black and white had some rough sets as far as print quality goes. And then, like I said, I wanted to test PSA with a few things. So with the Umbreon from Fates Collide, the back of the card, and I hope I could find the scans and it shows up, but the back of the card had like these ridges that matched the type of texture on the front of the card. And it was only on the top edge. It was very soft and subtle, and you could catch it in the light, but it wasn't a wear and tear. You know what I mean? Like, it was from the factory, and I wanted to see what PSA would do with those types of issues with the card. And I sent the Dialga V from Astral Radiance because it was crooked. It was slightly crooked. It was still really well centered, but what I mean crooked is that the card centering was tilted, so it'd be like thin on the bottom left and heavy on the top right. This one wasn't that drastic. I should have sent a more evident card, but I think they would have probably, I guess I'm giving it away, but that card got a 10. And then I wanted to do a sequential set. So as far as cards of the day go, I have 2 cards today. I have the Pikachu V from Lost Origin, my favorite trainer gallery card ever. Out of every single trainer gallery, this is my favorite card. I've talked about this card in a previous video. And then I have the Pikachu V Max, one of my favorite V Max trainer gallery cards. This card is just S tier. And they're sequential, so they are graded with the last of the 2 certs being 20 and 19. or 1920. I think Kirby accidentally put them in reverse order, so the VMAX comes before the V, but anyways, they're sequential. This experience grading was probably, it went way better than I expected. Like way better. Every card that was modern got the 10. And the only card that got a 9 in my submission was the Blastoise. And I was ecstatic about that because, like, if you can grade mid-era vintage as 9s or above, that's a win in my eyes. Obviously, everyone wants the 10, but grading vintage and mid-era is really tough. And I'm a 9 collector when it comes to vintage cards, so it was literally like the perfect submission. Now, I understand that's not everyone's experience grading. And I think there's a lot of factors that come into play with that, right? A lot of people don't know how to grade and they blindly send cards without really looking at them. Or there's a chance that the grader missed something or just misgraded something, higher or lower. That can really affect the person grading cards for the first time. I've had friends that have sent in their first submissions and do really well. I've also had friends that have sent in submissions and not done so well. If you saw one of my earlier videos, I graded a ton of Surging Sparks special illustration rares and illustration rares for a buddy of mine, and a lot of them got 9s, unfortunately. And I was a bit shocked because I do think that they were a little overcritical on some, and I probably could have cracked some of those and resent, and some of them could have got 10s, but that wasn't the case, and that was really discouraging for them. They do still grade, just not as often, and that's unfortunate because what I really want people to take away from their first experience grading is learning from that first experience. And I always tell people to try to grade a little bit of everything so that you kind of get an eye into how they grade certain things, certain types of condition aspects. Like every era has different things to consider, right? Like before we had full arts, we just had Cosmo Hollow half arts, and you really had to think about hollow scratches, which really isn't an issue in modern like special illustration rares and alt arts from Sword and Shield because they're textured and it's really hard to actually scratch those cards unless they're scratched on the back. But as far as hollow goes, you really don't have to worry about that unless it's like promo cards that are Cosmo Hollow, just have reverse hollows, things like that. So I always tell people try to grade a little bit of everything so you get an idea of what you're setting yourself up for the future. And even if you grade and they come back, you know, even if you grade something and it comes back worse than you expected, don't let that discourage you from grading again in the future because it's a I hate to say it, but it's kind of a pay to play. You just keep submitting cards, keep sending cards, learn from every time you grade, and always understand that there's a lot of human error that goes into this. And that's just the unfortunate reality of this. None of these grading companies are perfect. I've taken some L's grading some things. I've wanted to grade so many things that I ended up catching after I had bought the card raw that ended up, I didn't send because it was just something I missed when I was pre-grading. I think there was even a video, a few cards, nothing expensive, but that I missed a very small ding that I just didn't catch when I was, at a card shop or a card show, and you don't have the best lighting and there's a lot of people around you, and it's not the ideal, space to like take your time and really review cards. That's another thing. If you're buying cards at a show at a shop, take your time and really look at it before you buy it. But I've definitely graded some things that didn't go so well. Something that comes to mind, I sent in a reverse hollow Crystal Guardians Blastoise with the stamp, and I was so ecstatic. I was like, this thing is at least a 9. No, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it came back a 6, and I was like, what? Like, what the hell? And after closer inspection, I found a small pin size, like micro indentation. And PSA, for those that don't know, if your card has any sort of indent that affects the structure of the cardboard, it will basically auto 6. You can almost count on it. And other grading companies don't treat those defects the same way. So for instance, CGC, you might get an 8 with that card. and it's just based off of how much they put into every part of a card. Now, PSA is really big on what's called eye appeal. When you look at a card and you don't spot anything right away, that's a good sign right off the bat. So based off of like how well it's centered, of like if you can catch that it's off centered really quickly, it most likely will get a 9. If you see an instant hollow scratch, you're probably going to get an 8, possibly a 9, depending on how intense that scratch is. And so you can optimize, which is something that I'm going to start doing more, is optimize your grades with the cards that you're, well, at least planning to sell, right? So there's cards that, for instance, I sent out 20 Lucario promos, and as I was going through those cards, I found a few maybes, actually more than a few maybes, that I think I might send to CGC, because I think there's a chance that they'll at least get the black and white gem mint. Maybe not pristine, but you never know. I'll send another 20 to CGC and see how those go, just based off the ones that I put in the maybe pile. So optimizing your grades, your grading based off of the different companies and how different companies put weight into different aspects of a card's condition can really benefit you. So keep that in mind. And just like I said, don't give up grading. Even if you don't want to collect graded cards, I've mentioned this before, I think it's a really great way to grow your collection faster. One of the things that I really enjoy about grading is how fast I've been able to reach collection goals, whether that's with a raw binder set or other cards that I want graded. But by selling and trading into other cards that I put, a fraction of their graded price, just because I graded them myself, has really benefited my collection, both graded, raw, and even sealed. Like, I've traded graded cards for sealed product. I only put maybe $100 into, then I made $500 in sealed product off of, you know what I mean? So like, there's ways to really optimize how you grow your collection, how you scale your collection through grading, and through grading through different companies. I think there's always the benefit of grading cards to encapsulate cards and protect them. And if you're just looking to grade cards just to have them authenticated and encapsulated for your own collection, I would try to stick with one company that you enjoy. That could be CGC, that could be AGS, that could be BGS, that could be Tag, it could be PSA, it could be any of them. But I think I really enjoy having my entire graded card collection with one grading company, just to keep it cohesive. And the reason why I like PSA most is because they're tried and true. They are not a company that makes a lot of drastic changes to the way they grade quickly, unlike other companies have in the past that have actually really changed a lot of people's opinions on these grading companies. I think slow, gradual, natural growth and change really benefits a grading company. And I'm not the biggest fan of PSA's label. I'll be completely honest. I think that it is clean, but the design is just, it's okay. There are other more exciting looking labels. Like if you look at the pristine CGC, that's a nice embossed gold foil on it. You look at the BGS black label, like there are shiny things that get people's attention with other grading companies that PSA doesn't have. But if you're looking for value and strong liquidity, I think PSA has been the best route. There have been plenty of people that have told me that it's hard for them to sell CGC cards, especially just the Gem Mint black and white label. So yeah, it if it's just to encapsulate, go with who you enjoy, but maybe try to stick to the big three, because I've seen grading companies come and go. GMA, AGS is falling apart. I used to crack their slabs to regrade with PSA. I've had some really fun success stories with some of my closest friends in the hobby. We cracked a Gem Mint black and white CGC Shining Gyarados Japanese from Neo 3, Gem Mint black and white label, and crossed it to a PSA 10. No, we didn't crack it. What am I saying? We just crossed it. We didn't even crack it. We just sent that card in the CGC slab, and PSA crossed it, because it wasn't about the label. It was about the card itself. We looked that card up and down and couldn't find anything wrong with it besides the back centering top to bottom. It had an insane swirl. It's a beautiful card. Coleman, please never sell that card. I know we've talked about it and you won't. You've told me you won't, but please, that card is so cool, so special, and the story alone is what makes it so cool. That's another whole thing about grading, right? I help other friends grade their cards. It's a gateway in with less barrier to entry. You don't have to buy a membership. I know GameStop is now doing that, which is a whole other thing, right? Like it's honestly made it more difficult for me to find raw gradable singles just because the barrier of entry has collapsed almost. People are able to walk into GameStop, buy some packs if there's any in stock, open them. If they pulled something, they can literally just send it to PSA inside GameStop, and they come in without cards, they leave with bulk. Like, it's kind of crazy. And it sounds like I don't know how true this is, but apparently GameStop submissions have been turning around faster. But I will tell anyone and everyone that's grading with GameStop to stop doing it. Buy yourself a membership and start grading yourself. Enjoy the process, learn the process. Don't ship with FedEx, ship with USPS. I've talked about this on lives with some folks, but yeah, if you're gonna grade, do it yourself and start grading with your friends. Have them add cards to the submission. If you don't have 20 cards to make up a bulk submission, just get some friends together and try not to see the grades until they come back. I think grading reveals are underrated in person. Some of my earliest videos before I started dedicating myself to creating content, I got some friends together after our grades had came back. Didn't tell them what their grades were, and we did a live reveal, and it's a blast. It's a good time. I really want to do it again, like as a barbecue, and like get everyone together and just reveal cards. Maybe have some packs to open. We never open packs, so if you're gonna open packs, it might as well just be for fun. But yeah, I'm going a little bit off topic now. As far as the big three, I have mentioned the reasons why I grade with PSA. There are benefits to CGC with that pristine label. I will say that I feel like the Gem Mint label is really, it's not exciting. It gives me like Xerox machine vibes, sadly. Just, it looks cheap. But I will say that CGC's plastic, the plastic they put their cards in is much nicer than PSA's. PSA has more of a frosted feel, and it doesn't feel as sturdy in my opinion. Even the newer slabs, but I think the new ones actually got better, if I remember correctly. But it just, the CGC is really clear. I would never buy a black label, but would I try to grade a black label someday? Sure. I think, would I sell a black label? Absolutely. Like I have no interest in collecting black labels. No offense to anyone that does. It's just, to me, it's not for me. Uh, I collect the black label of PSA cards, and that's just me looking at the card and not the grade. If you're collecting graded cards, that's a big thing. Look at the card you're buying. If it's in a CGC, BGS, PSA, don't look at the grade itself. I see it so often that people will buy graded cards without even looking at it just because they see the number on it. One of the reasons why I'm so picky about my graded cards is, well, I'm OCD about it. But the other is, like, we never know who the top dog's going to be in 15 to 20 years. It can have estimated guesses on that. But at the end of the day, there might be a new company that takes over. And important to be able to transfer that value without downgrading, right? You might want to cross your PSA 10s to this XYZ grading company, but what if that card just isn't really a true 10 in this new grading company's eyes, right? Those are things you have to consider if you're looking for long-term value. And I'm not saying PSA is going anywhere. I surely don't think so. But it's one of those situations that could be a reality and something to really consider. I think all of these grading companies have their benefits. I think there's collectors for all of these grading companies, including Tag. I think that a unique aspect to Tag that I don't think a lot of people talk about is their label, and how is like a security aspect to it that none of the other grading companies really have. For an example, let's say you had a PSA 9 Unlimited Charizard and a PSA 10 Unlimited Charizard, both graded with PSA. What some scummy person could do is basically put that PSA 9 in the PSA 10 slab. How they do it, I don't know. But we've seen people get scammed with fake slabs. Unfortunately, I think of Will Pokestop. He had been scammed with a legendary collection reverse holo Charizard, sadly, and it looked real, right? It looked real, but it was a swap out basically. That could happen with PSA, but with tag that can't happen because the label is engraved into the slab. So that's an interesting aspect that I think other grading companies should maybe consider adopting, or something, some sort of feature like that. I'm not the biggest fan of tag personally. I've also noticed how much their advertising and marketing has slowed down, which to me was like a big red flag initially when I just saw so much content and ads and videos about tag. It felt, I don't know, it raised my eyebrow. I think that the idea of AI grading has a long way to go before it's really where it's supposed to be. My friend Josh, shout out to DeGreen Shiz, he graded a Creatures Deck Zapdos with tag and it got a 10. I believe it was a 10 or a 9, I can't remember, but he had cracked that from like a CGC lower grade, and I think he accidentally left a dent on the corner. And after he got that card back, he made a video talking about, hey, they graded a 10, but look, there was this dent in it, and tag deactivated the cert. It was this whole fiasco. I'm probably remembering it incorrectly, but I'll try to find that video and link it in the description. But it's not perfect. None of them are, and I'm not trying to throw shade on tag, but it's all learning experiences, right? These companies have to learn from their mistakes. CGC had to learn a big one with the beta cards and the alpha cards, right? Like that was a huge issue. And it's one of the other reasons why I just align with PSA. They were given the opportunity to grade those cards, from my understanding, those alpha beta cards, but they chose not to. Why? I'm not sure, but I think being able to say no without, knowing that this would bring a lot of attention to your grading company and a lot of money towards your grading company, because there's a lot of buzz and news around you grading those types of cards. It's not really worth it in the long run, and then we can see how that's the case with CGC, right? It's really unfortunate that happened, and I'm sure CGC has put in a lot of new guidelines and rules about those types of cards, right? They're going to be a lot more careful going forward. So all of these companies aren't perfect. It's all about who you just enjoy grading with. And for me, it's PSA. I think that's enough of me ranting. I think I talked about all of my points, and thank you. I haven't drank. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad about this. But hey, at least there was a card featured and coffee featured in this video this time around. Oh, and before I forget, y'all, if you guys want to ask me any questions about grading, make sure to drop a coffee emoji in the comments, and I'll make sure to answer those questions in a future Cards and Coffee episode. Until next time, y'all, happy collecting. Peace. 8 out of 10 Sharpedos.